stretching across 11 time zones. Russia is not only the largest country in the world, a land where endless plains gradually give way to vast taiga forests, the deepest freshwater lake on Earth, active volcanoes, and permanent frozen ground all exist within a single territory. For centuries, the world has often viewed Russia through its wars, empires, and political upheavals. But those are only relatively recent chapters in a story that began millions of years ago. Long before the Tsars, the cities or the Trans-Siberian Railway appeared, geology had already determined the shape of this land. Climate determined where people could live. Distance determined how they connected with one another and expanded their territory. To understand why this land was able to expand from the East European plain all the way to the Pacific coast, and why its history has always been tied to continuous expansion, the journey must begin where power first came together. For nearly 900 years, Russia's political power has remained centered in Moscow. Today, more than 13 million people live here, making it the largest urban center in Europe. What is surprising is that Moscow was not built on the coast, does not have a natural harbor, and is not located along any major international maritime routes. For many countries, that would have been a disadvantage. But for Russia, that very location became its greatest advantage. Across the vast East European plain, rivers once served as the highways of the Middle Ages. Moscow emerged at the point where several important waterways came together, making it well-positioned to control inland trade while remaining far enough from the frontier to avoid most attacks from the Eurasian steppe. Geography gave the city something invaluable: time to grow stronger. Moscow was first mentioned in written records in the year 1147, when it was only a wooden fortress. A major turning point came at the end of the 15th century, when Ivan III rebuilt the Kremlin in red brick. What had once been a defensive stronghold gradually became the center of national power. Just outside its walls stands Red Square, the site of coronations, military parades, and many of the most important events in Russian history. On the southern side of the square, St. Basil's Cathedral stands out with its colorful domes. The cathedral was completed after the victory over the Kazan Khanate in the year 1552, when Russia gained control of the entire Volga River basin and began expanding rapidly toward the east. By the 20th century, power was expressed in a different way. When the Moscow metro opened in the year 1935, its stations were decorated with marble, chandeliers, and mosaics, leading many people to compare them to palaces beneath the ground. Every day, millions of residents still pass through these spaces as part of their everyday lives. Above ground, the 7 Stalinist skyscrapers continued to shape the skyline of the capital after the Second World War. Yet power across the plains did not mean power at sea. As Russia began turning toward Europe, a capital deep inland was no longer enough to support its new ambitions. To change the country's place in the world, it needed to find another gateway. At the beginning of the 18th century, that ambition became a clear objective. Russia needed direct access to the Baltic Sea. After defeating Sweden in the Great Northern War, Peter the Great turned his attention to the mouth of the Neva River, where most people saw marshes, cold winds, and frequent floods. He saw the future of an empire. In the year 1703, Saint Petersburg was officially founded. Its first structure was not a grand palace, but the Peter and Paul Fortress, built on Zayaki Island in the middle of the Neva River. From this position, the entire river mouth leading to the Baltic Sea could be controlled. Unlike Moscow, which grew over many centuries, St. Petersburg was planned almost entirely from scratch, inspired by the cities of Western Europe. Along the banks of the Neva River, the Winter Palace quickly became the symbol of the Romanov dynasty. For nearly 200 years, it served as the official residence of the Tsars and the administrative center of the empire. Today, it forms part of the Hermitage Museum, which houses more than 3 million artifacts and works of art. Along with Western architecture, painting, and music, the city gradually became the most important cultural center of the Russian Empire. Facing the Gulf of Finland, Peterhof showcases more than 150 fountains powered entirely by natural changes in elevation. It is not only an engineering achievement of the 18th century, but also a symbol of Russia's expansion toward the sea. But a gateway only has value if it can be defended. Offshore on Kotlin Island, Kronstadt was built to protect St. Petersburg's maritime entrance and the Russian Navy in the Baltic Sea. Its network of fortifications and military bases once controlled every ship attempting to enter the mouth of the Neva River. St. Petersburg changed the direction of Russia's development, but it was not where the story began. To understand how an empire could emerge, we have to return to a time before fortress walls existed, when every route lay across the water. Before there were capitals, it was boats that controlled this land. Before the Kremlin, before Saint Petersburg, and even before the Tsars, they traveled quietly along the Volga River. It was this network of rivers that connected the Baltic Sea with the Black Sea, creating one of the most important trade routes in Eastern Europe during the Middle Ages. From Scandinavia, Varangian merchants carried furs, beeswax, and honey southward. In the opposite direction, silver, silk, and goods from the Byzantine Empire traveled north by boat. Along this route, Novgorod gradually became the region's largest trading center. Novgorod's prosperity was built on trade. Its docks, marketplaces, and merchants from many different lands turned it into a meeting place for the Slavs, the Vikings, and the Byzantine world. According to the chronicles in the 9th century, the Varangian leader Rurik was invited to rule Novgorod. Although many details remain debated, this event is often regarded as one of the earliest foundations of the Rus state, the predecessor of modern Russia. Right in the heart of the city, St. Sophia Cathedral, built between the years 1045 and 1050, still stands after nearly 1,000 years. The cathedral reflects the period when the East Slavic principalities began sharing a common faith and cultural identity. But as trade routes changed, the center of power shifted as well. Farther inland, Vladimir emerged during the 12th century as the new center of the Grand Principality of Vladimir Suzdal. Surrounded by forests and rivers, the city occupied a stronger defensive position than Novgorod. White stone landmarks such as the Dormition Cathedral, whose construction began in the year 1158, reflect the period when Rus evolved from a network of trading towns into a more organized state with centralized authority. Not far from Vladimir, Suzdal remained largely untouched by industrialization. Ancient monasteries, domed churches, and wooden houses still stand across its peaceful countryside. With a population of fewer than 10,000 people but an exceptionally high concentration of religious buildings, the town preserves many images of Russia before the modern era. That story continues in Sergiev Posad, where the Trinity Lavra of Saint Sergius was founded in the year 1337. For centuries, It has been the most important pilgrimage center of the Russian Orthodox Church. While political authority remained divided, faith helped unite these scattered lands into a broader community. The rivers brought prosperity to Novgorod. Vladimir laid the foundation for centralized power. Suzdal preserved the memory of ancient Russia, while Sergiev Posad connected people through a shared faith. A state had taken shape, but an empire still lay ahead. Farther to the southeast, a much greater river flowed across the heart of the Eurasian continent. That river is the Volga. Stretching for about 3,530 kilometers before emptying into the Caspian Sea. It served as Russia's most important transportation route for centuries. Long before railways and highways appeared, everything moved by water. Boats carrying furs, grain, timber, and metal traveled between settlements. Along with those boats came merchants, fishermen, and groups of settlers continuing eastward. The Volga did more than connect cities. It linked a vast territory into a single network. The farther downstream the river flowed, the more history began to change direction. By the middle of the 16th century, Kazan controlled the middle section of the Volga and the gateway to the eastern steppe. To expand its territory, Moscow had to take control of this region. In the year 1552, Ivan IV captured Kazan after a prolonged siege. For the first time, nearly the entire course of the Volga came under Russian control. Today, the Kazan Kremlin still reflects that turning point. Behind its white walls, Orthodox domes and Islamic minarets stand together within a single complex, showing how different cultures met and coexisted along this river. Not long after the victory, Sviazhsk emerged as an engineering achievement of the 16th century. Wooden structures were built in advance, transported by river, and assembled into a complete fortress within a remarkably short time. From there, Russia continued expanding eastward, moving closer to the Ural Mountains. 3 centuries later, the Volga once again became the center of another great conflict. In Stalingrad, now known as Volgograd, every street and every meter of the riverbank was fiercely contested during the years 1942 and 1943. If the Volga had been cut off, the Soviet Union's vital supply route would have collapsed. The victory there reversed the course of the Eastern Front and became one of the greatest turning points of the Second World War. Farther south, the temperate forests gradually give way to the steppes of Kalmykia, the only region in Europe where Tibetan Buddhism became the traditional religion. In a single journey along the Volga, both the landscape and the culture change again and again. The Volga opened trade routes, guided waves of expansion, and repeatedly shaped the destiny of the country. But the farther south it flows, the Great Plains gradually come to an end. Ahead lies a mountain range stretching from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea, where the landscape has created one of the most diverse regions in the entire country. Travel just a few dozen kilometers and the language, architecture, and even the way people live can change dramatically. Few places in Russia contain so much diversity within such a short distance as the Caucasus. This mountain range stretches for more than 1,200 kilometers from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea, forming a natural boundary between Eastern Europe and Western Asia. Towering peaks, deep gorges, and isolated valleys have separated communities for thousands of years, allowing each region to develop in its own way. Dagestan is the clearest example. More than 30 indigenous languages are still spoken here. Stone villages clinging to the mountainsides, terraced fields, and narrow paths carved along the cliffs reflect generations of people adapting to a landscape that has always been difficult to reach. One of the most remarkable places is Gamsutul. The village sits at an elevation of nearly 1,500 meters, with stone houses built along the mountainside. By the beginning of the 21st century, its last resident had left, leaving behind one of the most famous abandoned villages in the Caucasus. Leaving Gamsutul behind, the landscape suddenly opens up. The Sulak Canyon cuts more than 1,900 meters into ancient layers of rock, creating one of the deepest canyons in Europe. The turquoise river at the bottom reveals just how long the forces of tectonic activity and erosion have been shaping this landscape. Farther east, the distance between the mountains and the sea suddenly becomes much narrower. Derbent stands along the narrow corridor linking the Eurasian steppe with the Middle East. For more than 2,000 years, Persia, the Arab caliphates, the Mongol Empire, and later Russia all sought to control this passage. The 6th century Narian Kala fortress still overlooks the Caspian Sea from the hillside, standing as a reminder of the struggles that continued across many different eras. To the west, Mount Elbrus rises 5,642 meters above the clouds. It is widely recognized as the highest mountain in Europe under the most commonly accepted geographical definition, while also providing water for many river systems across the region. After only a few hours of travel, the scenery changes once again. Along the Black Sea coast, Sochi has a subtropical climate rarely found anywhere else in Russia. Palm trees along the shoreline stand only a few dozen kilometers from ski resorts on the slopes of the Caucasus, revealing the remarkable diversity of this region. The farther the mountains fade behind, the more the Caucasus gives way to a sea that has repeatedly shaped the fate of empires. For centuries, few places have influenced the ambitions of regional powers more than the Black Sea. It was this sea that became the meeting point of Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and the Mediterranean. For anyone seeking to expand influence toward the south, there was almost no other route. That is why this region has rarely known peace for more than 2,000 years. On the Crimean Peninsula, the deep natural bays of Sevastopol form one of the finest natural naval harbors on the Black Sea. After Russia annexed Crimea in the year 1783, the city quickly became the main base of the Black Sea Fleet. From the Crimean War in the 19th century to the Second World War, Sevastopol repeatedly became a strategic objective, reflecting the importance of this sea to the regional balance of power. But the story of Crimea did not begin with Russia. Looking down from the coastal cliffs are the ruins of Chersonesos, a Greek colony founded around the 5th century before Christ. Over the centuries, the Greeks, the Romans, and later the Byzantine Empire all left their mark on the same land. The remaining foundations reveal that the Black Sea was once a vital link in the trade network connecting the Mediterranean with the northern steppes. Continuing along the eastern coast of Crimea, the fortress of Sudak rises on a hill overlooking the sea. It was built by Genoese merchants during the 14th century to protect maritime trade routes across the Black Sea. Its stone walls and commanding position over the entire bay show why even a small port was enough to become the object of competition among powerful empires. Over the centuries, control of the Black Sea changed hands many times. The Greeks, the Byzantine Empire, the Republic of Genoa, the Ottoman Empire, and the Russian Empire all left lasting marks along its coastline. Those influences can still be seen today in the architecture, religious traditions, and daily lives of many coastal communities. The Black Sea is more than a body of water between continents. It has served as a trade route, a military corridor, and a meeting place for civilizations for thousands of years. But Russia did not look only toward warm seas. While empires competed for control of the Black Sea, Other expeditions push northward, where the sun can disappear below the horizon for weeks at a time, and winter seems almost endless. Covering more than 13 million square kilometers, Siberia accounts for nearly 3/4 of Russia's total land area. Taiga forests stretch for thousands of kilometers. Winter dominates most of the year, and the distance between settlements can sometimes reach hundreds of kilometers. The climate has never been easy, yet this immense expanse created opportunities for expansion that most of Europe no longer had. One of the first gateways into this vast region was Tobolsk. Founded in the year 1587 along the Irtysh River, the city quickly became the first administrative center of Siberia. From here, expeditions continued along the region's major river systems, gradually extending Russian territory toward the Pacific Ocean. And 3 centuries later, another project transformed the entire region. Construction of the Trans-Siberian Railway began in the year 1891. Creating a transportation route stretching for more than 9,200 kilometers from Moscow to Vladivostok. Millions of people moved eastward along this railway, helping establish new cities across land that had once been sparsely populated. Cities such as Novosibirsk grew rapidly and became major economic centers of Siberia. Yet even that railway crosses only a small part of this immense land. Farther east lies Lake Baikal, the deepest freshwater lake on Earth, reaching a depth of 1,642 meters. About 20% of the world's unfrozen freshwater is contained within this lake. Thousands of species live here, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth. In Yakutia, winter temperatures regularly fall below -50 degrees Celsius, while in Oymyakon, temperatures have been recorded below -67 degrees Celsius. This vast layer of permafrost has preserved the remains of woolly mammoths and many other Ice Age animals for tens of thousands of years. Farther north, the Yamal Peninsula contains one of the world's largest natural gas reserves. Across this tundra, the Nenets people continue leading their reindeer herds along seasonal migration routes, maintaining a way of life that has endured for centuries in the heart of the modern energy industry. Siberia expanded Russia's living space all the way to the Pacific Ocean. But even this immense land is not the end of the journey. At the eastern edge of the Eurasian continent, nature continues shaping the land through volcanoes, earthquakes, and flowing lava. Lava continues to rise from deep beneath the ground. Earthquakes still occur. Glaciers quietly erode the mountainsides, and hot steam escapes through fractures in the Earth's crust. On the Kamchatka Peninsula, nature has never truly stopped shaping the land. Surrounded by the Sea of Okhotsk and the Pacific Ocean, Kamchatka is almost completely isolated from the rest of Russia. Most of the peninsula still has no road connection to the country's national transportation network. That isolation has preserved one of the most untouched wilderness regions on Earth. Long before Russian explorers arrived, the Koryak and Itelmen peoples lived here through fishing and hunting. Kamchatka lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most geologically active regions in the world. More than 300 volcanoes are scattered across the peninsula, with about 30 of them still active. Repeated eruptions have continually reshaped the landscape over countless generations. At the heart of this land lies the Valley of Geysers. Dozens of towering steam vents and hot springs erupt from beneath the ground, creating one of the largest geothermal systems in the world. But the life of Kamchatka comes from more than its volcanoes. Every summer, millions of salmon leave the Pacific Ocean and swim upstream into the peninsula's rivers to spawn. Following them are Kamchatka brown bears, Steller sea eagles, and many other predators. This cycle has continued for thousands of years, creating one of the most complete natural ecosystems still remaining on Earth. Although Kamchatka lies at the far edge of Russian territory, the journey across this vast country truly comes to an end only on the Pacific coast at Vladivostok, the eastern terminus of the Trans-Siberian Railway, which stretches for more than 9,200 kilometers. After crossing many landscapes and many centuries of history, one truth gradually becomes clear. Before cities appeared, before empires were built, and even before borders were drawn on maps, geography had already shaped everything. And in Kamchatka, surrounded by volcanoes, oceans, glaciers, and vast forests, that truth is more visible than anywhere else. After thousands of kilometers, countless time zones, and landscapes that seem to have little in common, one thing gradually becomes clear. Russia is not a country shaped by a single city, a single culture, or a single period of history. It is the result of immense distances, completely different environments, and humanity's ability to adapt to each of them. Perhaps that is also why Russia has always been difficult to define through a single image or a single story. Even after this journey, that feeling remains unchanged. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the next journey of discovery.